Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to the Falcoholic Live's Thursday Night Football post-game show. Falcons vs. Panthers. The Falcons, maybe unpredictably, did not blow it. The Falcons did win the game at the end with a decisive interception of Teddy Bridgewater from my son, Bleedy Ray Wilson, hashtag free Bleedy. And they put the game away. It looked for a moment there like we might have a repeat of last Sunday on our hands when Gurley, let's say unadvisedly, went out of bounds on that third down carry. We could also say that the third down carry itself was probably not, well advised, but they did the right thing in the end. They managed to get the stop that they've desperately needed to get on defense for weeks, and they brought the game home at long last. We saw them close it out, and it wasn't like Minnesota where they just had dominated the opponent the entire time. They actually managed to hold on to a narrow lead there at the end. So obviously it's a celebratory occasion. If you're here to hear my Dirk Cutter slander, don't worry, there's plenty of it. There were plenty of bad decisions on offense tonight that the Falcons got around. They did manage to get around those things, but we're going to get to that. We're going to get to the good stuff too, of course, because this is a win. So we'll get to the good stuff. We'll cover the injuries and all that. But before we get into all that, just want to remind you guys, if you have specific questions, you can put those in the chat at the Falcoholic, and we'll try to get to as many of those as we can. If you have a particularly burning question that you just can't, risk getting lost in the chat, you can donate, and that will contractually oblige me to answer your question, and I would be happy to do that. And also, the flip side is that you support the show. So everybody wins, really. So that is down here at the bottom. It's streamlabs.com/thefalcoholic if you're interested. But back to the football talk, folks. Evan, I'll start with you. Just your immediate takeaways from this victory, other than, wow, they didn't blow it, because that was pretty obvious. But if that's your takeaway, that's fine. But
Yeah, I even tweeted it hoping it would reverse jinx, because you never want to see your team just lose, especially on prime time. I expected it to go to overtime, but no, the defense, as you mentioned, did finally step up and finish a game off. Bleedy getting that late interception. I don't know. Overall, it was ugly. I don't think anybody comes away feeling tremendous after this game. Like, If I'm the Panthers, I especially feel bad, because it's like they had some sort of momentum going. I know they lost to the Saints barely due to they missed a field goal late in their game last week, but I didn't feel impressed. And we somehow won. Like, if the score was covered all game and I forgot the touchdowns, like, it seemed like they were winning for most of the game. And then, where they lost Bridgewater for a little bit, he wasn't overly dominant. He had a much better game against us a couple weeks ago. I don't know. It's a win, so I'll take it and stuff. But I didn't, I wasn't blown away by both sides of the ball or anything. There was moments where Foy continues to impress. Julio Jones still good. Worried about Calvin Ridley now with his ankle injury that he didn't return. And then some of the Gurley stuff was weird, where he pretty much was taken off the field, stretching or whatever on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Brian Hill got some run, but then Gurley came back in and looked pretty good, kind of. Because there for a minute, he at one point he had 5 carries for 8 yards. It wasn't getting any better. And then Brian Hill just kind of took over, and Gurley ended up coming back in, and now looking at 18 carries for 46 yards and a touchdown. Not a tremendous night for Gurley, but looks a little better.
Yeah. So it was a solid performance from Gurley. It wasn't fantastic, but on the whole, better than the last time, better than last week, where the run game was just kind of a non-factor. Adnan, let's get your takeaways from tonight's.
Solid. I thought Gurley sucked tonight.
Yeah.
Sure, he scored the touchdown.
Yeah. That was the one drive he was actually good. That one drive. Yeah.
Yeah, the man had 2.6 yards per carry on 18
That's good
votes,
for the Falcons. Okay.
And then he had that complete brain fart where he stepped out of bounds, and he got bailed out by the defense this week, and he wasn't last week, but can you imagine what the narrative would have been if Carolina went downfield and scored that touchdown and got that 2-point conversion,
Right.
and then won in overtime? Like, we'd be talking about Gurley as this like the worst situational football player of all time.
Yeah.
But because the defense held up, it's going to get lost in the archives at this point. But yeah, it looked like they were putting Brian Hill in for a few of his own exclusive drives, and Hill looked much, much more spry than Gurley tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I think that could be a theme moving forward, where they start capping some of Gurley's carries, not to preserve his health, but just because he hasn't been that good, like, overall the last couple of games. I think last week he had 63 yards for 18 carries,
Mm-hmm.
and in fantasy football that'll get overshadowed by the fact that he has 8 touchdowns, but touchdowns are very volatile, and touchdowns are more a product of the offense itself. Gurley's fantastic around the end zone, like, don't get me wrong, he's a great short yardage back, but he needs to be doing more on his carries between the 20s to be to continue getting his opportunities. I wouldn't mind seeing Brian Hill eat into some of his carries, but overall in the game, it was such a weird game because you come away with a win, not great for the tank, of course, hashtag tank season, but it was like you were stopped 4 times for field goals inside the red zone, which wasn't great. You didn't really do a great job of finishing drives. I don't know why Dirk Cutter got away from the play action on first downs. Like, on that first drive was a thing of beauty, where every single time, like Matt Ryan, his first 2-3 plays, it was like play action first down, and he got like a massive gain on it every single time. And then Dirk Cutter decided, okay, enough of that. That's working too well.
No, they're on to that now. We can't go back to that. Whereas Kyle Shanahan would have run it 35 times until they stopped it.
Yeah, and then we went right back to runs up them. I really do think that they do have those scripted plays, and then Dirk Cutter just gets lost. He just goes right back into whatever the hell that was on those first downs. But the offense did enough. If not for a Koo missed extra point, and Younghoe Koo had a great game today. Other than that last missed kick, it would have been a much more comfortable win. They would have been up by 9 points at that point. The defense did a great job in this game. I have to tip my cap. They flexed their muscle. They got 3 sacks in this game. They got the big interception at the end. Foye Oluokun, he made 2 fourth down stops. Like that 1 fourth down stop of Teddy Bridgewater where he faked the handoff and tried to run it himself for a 5-yard loss. And then it was just like a swarm of Falcons on that 4th and 2.
Yeah.
Where, Oluokun has looked special this season.
He's been good. He's been legitimately good.
Yeah, he looks like a legitimate steal, and I cannot. He's a must re-sign at this point, right?
I think
he's looking like it.
I think he's still under contract through 2021 at least, but maybe 22.
Absolutely.
But but exactly, he's really overperformed. Obviously his draft selection in the 6th round. And he was definitely one of the bright spots tonight and one of the most consistent players of the season. Yeah.
All season. It's Grady Jarrett and it's him. And AJ Terrell also, other than that bad play on that 3rd and 17, where you can just probably chalk that up to a rookie mistake where, he just sat on it on that DJ Moore route. He'll get more experience and in time. He's going to improve on that where, you have to go after the ball. So, I don't put too much stock in that play. That's just a rookie mistake. But AJ Terrell has looked fantastic all season long. And he looked really good tonight because Anderson and DJ Moore were getting clamped all night.
They were. Honestly, the coverage for most of the time was fine. There was just a couple of notable examples where it's bad. And honestly, that's kind of been the theme of this team, is that it hasn't always been bad, but when it is bad, it's really bad. But I do want to take a quick sec to read off George Costanza with the $5. Brother, thank you. I believe George Costanza is our GOAT donator now. I think this is his $20th donation. So this man is single-handedly funding the show. So George, we really appreciate you. And his message is, yay to playing for pride. Time to mess up our draft spot. Draft takes coming soon. He says the Harris hit didn't look malicious, but I understand the ejection. Fair. Fowler's trip was Bush League. Yes, it was.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
However, he thinks Bostic's dirty hit in Dalton was more malicious than Harris's, just his thoughts.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree with that too. George, once again, thank you, brother, man. We really appreciate that.
Yeah. I feel like they ejected. If that Dalton hit hadn't happened on Sunday, they wouldn't have ejected Harris tonight.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's just they got more hypersensitive, where the league office probably sent a message to the referees to really cut down on hits like that. So I don't think it should have been an ejection. That hasn't been an ejection all season, but it was a weak ejection. But that trip was. But one, what was he thinking? Like, did he think that the referees just wouldn't see his foot just like all the way up there, at Teddy Bridgewater's knees? It's like I was watching the Looney Tunes, where like someone just like trips someone else in like a cartoon and they just go tumbling. But it was. Yeah, I'm glad Teddy Bridgewater was okay after that. You never want to see someone get hurt. But yeah, I legitimately had fears that their backup quarterback would just walk in there and just have the game of his life, because that would be a very Falcon thing to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Man, yeah, I'm kind of like struggling with how exactly to feel about this game, honestly. Like, because there were some good things, there were some bad things. Like, I'm looking over the stats now real quick. Like, the Falcons held the Panthers under 200 yards passing, which that's pretty crazy considering the Falcons literally allow the 32nd most passing yards per game in the NFL and allow, I think, the 31st most yards per attempt through the air. So this is like the league's worst passing D, or at least it's in contention with the Seahawks for that dubious honor. And they managed to actually put together a good game against the pass. I wasn't sure it was actually possible, to be honest with you, but they did. They did manage it, and they really made it happen with some creative, blitz packages. Their pass rush basically came on the blitz, and that worked. And just some misfires from Bridgewater.
They had no answer for the A-gap blitzes at all. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to say that. Like, they made no adjustments to that at all, and the Falcons lived in that A-gap all night.
Yeah, they did. And that was working. It was maddening when they went away from it, like that 3rd and 17 that the Panthers got 42 yards on. A 3-man rush, 9 men in coverage. Like, throw that play out, because the Falcons they just don't do well dropping into coverage. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I don't know how many times we have to see this. You can drop 20 guys back there. You can add extra men on the field, and they're still going to give up these big plays because they're just not good at that type of deep coverage. They give up those mental mistakes. So you might as well just send the house. Like, you might as well just send a blitz on that play on 3rd and 17.
Engage eight. My favorite play as a kid on Madden.
Exactly. Might as well, because, like, you're not going to cover them, so you might as well force that dump off and then just make a tackle. Like, I have infinitely more faith in them to make a tackle than to play, 9 guys in coverage. And let's be honest, like, even if they missed that tackle, I'd be less mad than if they didn't rush 3. So, or I'd be less mad if they rush 3. Basically. So
it feels like they just don't know when to be aggressive and when not to be aggressive. Like, sometimes they're overly aggressive. Like last week on that 4th down and 5, where they decided not to kick a field goal, and then tonight they come out. And it felt like a real overcorrection from Raheem Morris, where it was 4th and inches from inside the 5, and they trot out the kicking unit, which, is great for Young Wei Koo fantasy owners, but it's like, analytically, like, what are you doing in that case? Like, your offense was moving the ball. It worked out in the end because, the team won, so we won't really remember it, but it just feels like I don't want to over criticize them when it comes to being over aggressive and under aggressive, because I know it's different. It's like a game of chess, where if you're in the game, it's like kind of hard to get that feeling for it. Whereas when you're watching to the side, you're just seeing like every like perfect move you can make. So it's different as fans sitting out here and being like, oh, why did they do that? Why are they aggressive here? Why aren't they aggressive there?
Right.
So it is different, but at the same time, it's like, that's where you really want a situational coach, where Dan Quinn had that and he was like terrible, but a situational coach to really tell like give some advice on when to go for it on fourth down, when to kick a field goal, when not to. And they just are just it's that conservative BS every single time on those final drives. That's what lost the game against Detroit, the prevent defense, which prevents teams from winning. And again tonight, you saw they ended up being bailed out in the end. But I just hate I just hate the conservativeness. It's haunted this team for the past decade easily. That's where all the blown leads come from. But it worked out tonight.
Yeah, it did. It worked out finally, but in the end, that 42-yard gain and that interception should have never had to occur, because you should just stop them on 3rd and 17. You should just stop them on 3rd and 17, so the rest of this nonsense is not even necessary. But it's the Falcons, so nothing can ever be easy. Evan, you got any thoughts on that defensive performance in this game?
I mean, I'm just it's kind of it being a lost year and everything. You just have to look for the bright spots, and just repeating what Adnan said. I just Foy's looking good. I do think Terrell has been super underrated, just based on you look at the stat lines against certain receivers he's gone up against, and he's gone up against a lot of good ones. The one that stood out the most to me so far has been Adam Thielen with the Minnesota Vikings. Late in the game, he got junk yard stuff, or junk time stuff, but Terrell's pretty much been doing a pretty good job against some of these top receivers. I mean, Robbie Anderson's, if you play fantasy football, has done pretty well this year. DJ Moore
was second in receiving yards coming into this game in the NFL behind DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
DJ Moore, I think, had 2 touchdowns last week. And he got one was a 42-yard reception.
He ended up being their leading receiver because of that reception, because he only had 2 catches. But
yeah, and then the Samuel stuff, he was just kind of that rushing touchdown, he looked like he went untouched, but and then the reception was off the fingertips of Ricardo Allen. But there's some bright spots on this defense. Obviously, the pass rush still needs help. I don't think anybody's blown away by how the pass rush looks. You still have Takk McKinley missing games, and who knows if he's even going to, remain on the team. There's been some trade rumors and stuff, but we do know we have some bright spots in Aluakun and Terrell, and obviously Grady Jarrett, Keanu Neal flying around still, making some big hits. And that one where Mike Davis caught the ball and they said it wasn't, maybe I'm just too used to old football, but that looked like a fumble to me. I mean, in my eyes, the incompletions where it hits your hand and just falls off or something.
Yeah.
He caught it. I mean, maybe it's because it was slowed down, but he looked like he caught the ball. It was in his hands. And for some reason they said that wasn't a fumble, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it was close. I mean, I guess I could see, especially if
it's fast, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, since they originally called it a fumble, I think it's less, arguable that it wasn't. But it was close enough that I wasn't super upset. I mean, obviously the Falcons had lost, and I'd probably be more upset about that. But yeah, I mean, it would have been nice to get that extra turnover. That would have helped, certainly. But it was just so weird, because I felt like to start the game, the defense was just awful. They gave up those 14 points basically on back-to-back drives, and then it was nothing the rest of the game. It was a very weird feeling game.
What was weird too was, I don't know if it's a thing, but is there such thing as a penalty bug? Because the Falcons had it.
Oh yeah, especially early
in the game. Yeah, and then late in the game, the Panthers had it. That one drive, it seemed like they just kept getting nonstop penalties, and both teams finished with 6. But it was rough for the Falcons early, but the Panthers finished it late.
I think they got a penalty on 3rd down on the first drive, where I think it was it Isaiah Oliver, where he just pushed the wide receiver, he didn't even try to
it was. I think that was Robbie Anderson. He just touched him, and it was out of bounds or whatever.
And it's it would have been a very difficult catch. Can we talk about that flea flicker play, though?
Oh my! I think that was honestly just an amazing throw by Bridgewater. Ricardo Allen was right there.
It was a great throw, but I mean, Ricardo Allen got there so late.
It was very late. That should have been an easy pick. I feel like if that was KZ, it would have been a pick for sure.
Yeah, it should have been a pick. Minimum, it should have been a batted a bad pass, a pass deflection, because it wasn't a great decision with safety over the top to make that throw. But like, man, Ricardo Allen has had some rough moments this year. Like this seems like the end for him in Atlanta.
Probably.
Just because it's like he just doesn't have the athleticism to make some of those plays that he needs. He never did.
Right.
But it's like it's much worse when you're like older, at this point. And, he also had that season-ending injury in 2018. So I think that has something to do with it. Like, he touched the ball.
Yeah.
But that should have been an easy pass deflection. And,
or a pick even,
Yeah, ideally it should have been a pick because that was kind of an ill-advised pass.
Yeah.
But he, like, I don't know, man. I think this is, toward the end of the road for
it is.
For Allen, because that cap hit, you save like what, $6 million.
Yeah, they desperately are going to need it next year. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, even if he was playing great, I mean, it would be hard.
Plus, Jalen Hawkins looked good in that one game against the Packers before he left.
Yeah,
I know
I'm down
he had to deal with a concussion, but I want to see more of him.
Yeah, I'm down to give Jalen Hawkins like as many snaps as he can handle just to see what you have from him. Yeah, because if the Falcons lose this game tonight, we're looking back and we're scrutinizing that play. It's so funny when a team loses, you just put the microscope on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like we'd be like tearing Ricardo Allen apart right now. We'd be tearing Todd Gurley apart.
Koo too.
Yeah, Younghoe Koo for the missed extra point. Even though he had a
bunch of
very
field
good
goals.
game. Yeah, he had like 4 field goals, and he kind of got me off to a great start in fantasy football. So I'm not tolerating any Koo slander tonight.
Right.
But it's just winning just like makes everything so much easier for the players out there who made those mistakes.
Solves all problems.
Yeah, this show would be so much different right now if the Panthers go downfield and tie the game up.
Imagine last week if how Gurley scored and then the Falcons made a defensive stop in that last minute. Like it would have been, we'd probably be joking on it more the Gurley thing. But
yeah, it would be he's a scoring machine out there.
Oh man,
God love Todd Gurley.
My fantasy team salutes you, Todd. Yeah. I mean, it does.
It's just crazy how like easy this team could have been 5-3. Like in hindsight, looking at everything that's gone wrong, if they just didn't blow games or do stupid stuff not recover footballs and.
Yeah, if this team was just average mentally, if they weren't, as I keep saying, the most mentally weak sports franchise I've ever seen in my life, without exaggeration.
Yeah.
This team is like we're so excited about a potential playoff run at this point.
No, don't stop. Everyone needs to stop.
I'm
not saying that you're doing that, but people need to stop. Yeah.
But just to say, the 1970 Bengals are the only team to make the playoffs when starting 1-6. So.
No, we're not having this discussion.
We're not having this discussion.
It's possible.
If they get back to 500, I'll talk about it. Okay. How about that? Yeah.
It's just if we weren't playing Tampa, KC, and Tampa 10 this season, I'd have more of a. I'd be more open to it. But God, that schedule is so brutal.
It's pretty brutal. It's the hardest remaining schedule among any team, and lest we forget, the Falcons are not a good football team, okay? I know they beat the Panthers, all right? Like, this was, a more impressive win than the one over Minnesota, which, I guess maybe it isn't because they, thoroughly crapped on Minnesota, but Minnesota sucks. So the Panthers have not sucked. They've been about a 500
Minnesota
team.
without Galvin. This is the Panthers without McCaffrey, but Mike Davis has looked great.
Yeah, Mike Davis had 5 yards per carry against us, all right? So clearly, they weren't missing McCaffrey too much. But, it's... let's hold off a little bit on the playoff talk. All right, let's wait till we get back to 6-6 before we start talking about how we're gonna be team of destiny and all this.
I'm on record for tank. I just like to beat the Saints a couple times, and other than that, you can do whatever you want at this point. Like you don't get the privilege of having the fan base continue to buy in when you lose games like this week in and week out. And they won this week, but when you start off 1-6, you don't get to have everyone completely buy into you.
Yeah.
You lose that. You lose that privilege completely.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean it's like I agree. Like what the chat, what a lot of people in the chat are saying is like the Falcons should probably be 5-3 and all this. Like, yeah,
They should.
They probably should. But like
they also should have won the Super Bowl.
they're also not. They're also not. So.
But it's like the reason they're not is the common denominator, and it's so frustrating because if Dan Quinn gets fired after week 2, the way he should have been fired last season.
Right.
But if you fire him after week 2, the way like many other owners like would have like probably pulled the trigger at that point after the past couple seasons, then you have a legitimate chance at the playoffs this year if you don't start 0-5.
Yeah.
Because you have to look at it like, Raheem Morris is now 2-1, and if not for just a complete defensive lapse, and if not for Todd Gurley's gaffe, then he's 3-0 right now. The defense has looked really good the past 3 games. Like other than that last drive against Detroit, other than garbage time against Minnesota, and I still contended that AJ Terrell roughing the passer was terrible, which led to the Lions touchdown. This defense has stepped up the past 3 games.
Yeah. George Costanza with another $5, brother. Like, you don't feel like you have to, like, I was kidding when I said you're single-handedly funding the show. Like, we really appreciate it, but like, you don't feel like obligated. Right yeah, it's literally my light is flickering back there. Thank you for that. I wouldn't be able to pay the power now, but yeah, no, brother, we do appreciate you. Let me read George's message here. Bush League trip aside, Fowler pulled an opposite before Halloween. He wasn't a complete ghost tonight. You're right. He was very involved, I think. Let's talk about how big the D-line came up on both those fourth and short stops. That's where the game was won. And that was a big deal, so we should definitely cover that. Like, honestly, that's been Fowler's biggest contribution, right? Like, his stops on fourth down. Like, I feel like as a run defender, he's been very active, and he's made some key plays there, but, we pay him to be a pass rusher, and he hasn't really come through there, but, like, as a run defender, you have to like his contributions, compared to Vic Beasley. But
I mean, yeah, his run defense has been great, but you kind of expect more if you're paying $15 million a year.
Well,
you
especially
kind of
as a
hope
pass rusher. Yeah.
Hey, he almost had a sack with his knee tonight.
He did. Yeah, that's how desperate this man is to justify that contract. I think he's like, I gotta get something. The fans are out here. They're eviscerating me.
I understand. It's like in the moment.
Yeah.
It's like, the game is going at a faster speed, but seriously, what was he thinking? Like, you really think the refs aren't going to see that?
Yeah. He's like, oh no, I'm jumping. Oh, my leg.
Oh. True story. Yeah, just like getting off topic right now. I used to play intramural flag football, at the local college a couple years ago, and I'd always line up, play offensive line, and you're not allowed to like use your like hands or anything. So whenever the pass rusher would get by me, I would just like stick a knee out every single time. It happened 4 or 5 times, and I would intentionally like go down with him, just so that it would look like incidental contact. That was my go-to move.
That's good. That's legit. I think Keenan would be proud of you for that one. Yeah. I think he would appreciate that. Because like getting around, the penalty is being savvy. That's part of that's part of an offensive lineman's job. It's only holding if it's called. So.
The only time I was ever busted for it is when I did it twice in a row.
Yeah. You can't go back to the well too often. You got to save it for those key downs, or when you really know you got beat. But that's hilarious. But yeah, I mean, Grady Jarrett, obviously another guy who played really well. Charles Harris has made some plays, so it's unfortunate that he's ejected, and he's probably going to be getting a hefty fine for that hit. But yeah, I mean, on the whole, like I think the defensive line has been like okay, like in terms of actual pressure rate and not raw sacks, they're solid. Like they're below average, but they're not like bad. Like I think they're like 18th in pressure rate or something. So it's like that's solid compared to last year where they were like literally one of the worst teams in the league. So I mean, I guess that is one of the benefits. One of the nice things on defense right now. And the Falcons have actually been pretty good on third down, like on third, like preventing teams from getting third downs. It just makes it like really infuriating when they give up those 3rd and 17s because they're just too good to be doing that nonsense. It's ridiculous.
They've been doing that forever. It felt like I was watching a Mike Nolan defense out there.
Oh God, don't you put that evil on me? I don't want to remember that. Okay, the amoeba. Talk about amoeba.
I still can't believe the only time that ever worked was against Peyton Manning of all people on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Like maybe the smartest like quarterback of all time just got fooled by the dumbest defensive scheme ever.
Yeah. So Brave Dirty Hawk, this is the second time I've seen it, so I guess I have to do a better job of making it clear about how you guys tip. I wish I had like a button or something I could put out to make it like really easy. But for right now, what we have to do is you use a link. So the link is streamlabs.com/thefalcoholic. I will make sure that I'll have it up on the screen here for you guys. And that's where you can go to put in your message and do all that sort of stuff. And again, totally optional, but we really appreciate your contributions, and we just love chatting with you guys. So if you want to do that, I will make sure that's clear going forward. I've been this is new for me too. This is new features on the show. But yeah, that is how you do it. It's streamlabs.com/thefalcoholic. And also, if you guys don't mind throwing that like and subscribe out there as well. If you like the show, that helps other folks on YouTube find it. That helps us out. And if you're not already subscribed, you'll get those notifications on YouTube when we go live. That helps you keep track of everything. But in the meantime, guys, let's talk about that unfortunate injury to Calvin Ridley. It looked like it was a foot injury. He left the game in some pain and did not return. So that's sad to me. He was ruled out, so obviously it looks like it might be something that we have to worry a little bit more about. What do you guys think of that loss? Do you think that's a long-term injury? Obviously, we don't know exactly what's going on with that, but Evan, I'll let you get the first crack at that. What is your thought on the loss of Ridley tonight?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because he's been doing so well this year. I mean, he's been I'd say the standout on offense, just because he's been, on the national level, one of the better receivers in the NFL. But he had 3 receptions for 42 yards, and then that ankle injury, where he ends up leaving, looked like his left ankle, and he was, walking gingerly to the locker room, and that was the last we saw of him. It's tough, but all you can do is hope. I imagine if it was like, I'm no doctor, obviously, but if it was like a broken ankle or something, they would have brought a card out or something like that. So maybe it was a sprained ankle. That hurts like hell. I'm sure many people watching have had a sprained ankle before. So hopefully it's something like that. Maybe he misses a game, and then is back. I know we have the bye week coming up and stuff like that, but it's tough to see.
Yeah, it is. It's really sad too, because he's been on such a tear this year, and that was one thing that he struggled with last year too, which kind of prevented him from really taking his place as like one of those top 10 receivers. Because to start the season, he was on that crazy pace. But the Falcons do have a lot of weapons, so it is possible that they'll be able to weather it okay. But it's tough. It's tough to see him go down. And yeah, I'm upset about it. But Adnan, you got any thoughts on the loss of Calvin Ridley? Do you think it might be a long-term injury, and how are the Falcons going to kind of weather that one?
I'm also no doctor, but I'm with Evan on this one. The fact that a cart wasn't brought out, and the fact that he wasn't immediately ruled out, he was initially ruled questionable to return. That's a pretty good sign. Falcons have 10 days of rest over until the next game, and then they have a bye week after the next game against the Broncos. So for precautionary reasons, they may hold him out and let him get fully rested, because if he doesn't play between now and the Saints game, which is 2 games from after now, he'll have 23 days of rest. So 3 full weeks to recover from it, and we'll get the prognosis tomorrow or the next day. But just looking at it initially with my untrained eye, I would think that he misses maybe max 1 game. Maybe he tries to tough it out next week, but I think the team will err on the side of caution with him and keep him out just because that bye week is coming up.
Yeah, I agree. And especially when you're 2-6. Like, it's not like we're, needing to rush anyone back or anything like that.
They have, 3 receivers. I mean, I guess Roland's, known more for his special or, kick return and stuff.
Right.
But like Laquan Treadwell, I could see them just calling him up. I think Juwan Green or whatever, which I don't know much about, to be honest, but he's a wide receiver on their practice squad. So they have guys they can call up, to fill in for a week, and the Falcons would live. So
Yeah.
no reason to, have him re-aggravate it. The Julio thing against, I think it was the Packers, where he left at halftime and didn't come back, probably, hopefully, showed him, hey, there's no reason to force these guys to come back in a losing season so they can re-damage something.
Also, you want him at 100% for that Saints game. I personally don't give a shit about beating the Broncos or not. I want to beat the Saints, and Ridley traditionally owns the Saints, and I'm down to keep him out of next game, and have him 100% for that Saints game, because I'm here to beat the Saints 2 times, and then they can finish 4-12 for all I care.
Right, yeah. You got to get the sweep against the Saints. Okay, that's the most important thing. We need to make sure that is a priority above all else, even draft position. But, yeah, as long as you complete the Saints sweep, then I'm pretty satisfied, with whatever else. But, yeah, I know we've got some questions. If you guys do have questions, you could throw those in the chat. At the Falcoholic is a good way to make sure those are highlighted for me. But, yeah, I mean, I know some people are asking about GM candidates. Are you guys still basically in on guys like, Louis Riddick? Any other names that have come up that you guys are interested in at this point?
What other names have came up? I know we've talked about Riddick and stuff.
Let's see. I think it was Caserio for the Patriots was another one. Nick Caserio, I think, was somebody that was mentioned because of the Falcons' ties to the Patriots in the past in terms of their front office staff.
I'd be okay if they got away from just grabbing Patriots stuff.
Yeah.
We had that with Dimitrov the past decade.
Right.
And credit to Dimitrov, he had his hits, in the draft in the first round especially. But man, I remember before Dan Quinn got here, if the Falcons are drafting after the second round, you can just pretty much count on those players never making any impact.
That was the thing with Dimitrov, really, right? That he just couldn't draft a pass rusher, to save his life. That was the biggest problem that I had, obviously, with Thomas Dimitrov.
And the 08 draft was fantastic, but then after that it was all right, first 2 rounds good, and then it's Desmond Southward in the 3rd round and stuff like that.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Dan Quinn's probably a better talent evaluator than he is a coach. I think his future in the NFL might be more along the lines of a director of player personnel or something like that. I think he could actually be pretty good in that role as well, because I just don't know. He needs to really update his coaching, because I think he's really stuck in that Pete Carroll mold of coaching that's just not great.
He'd make a hell of a college coach, though.
Yeah. I mean, I think so too. I don't think he's done with coaching, and if he wants to continue down that road, I think that's fair. I wouldn't be totally shocked to see that. But
I think I'm with Evan. I think he'd be a perfect college coach. It's just he's someone that. One, I think he would, embrace the challenge of molding young men, in the college game, and I think he'd be fantastic at it. And he's just someone that players love to follow. Mm-hmm. You saw it up until he was fired, Falcons players were just completely all in on him.
Yeah. These are grown men, NFL players that usually don't buy into stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, and they completely. It wasn't like a Jim Harbaugh situation where the message just got so stale and the players were just completely over him, because, with Harbaugh, you can't really. You can kind of have some control over college players in the college game. Mm. You can't do that with grown men who are, in their 30s and who have kids and mortgages and you can't treat them like children the way it was reported that he was kind of trying to. And that gets stale. But with Dan Quinn, I think it will be even more effective in the college game, because he's someone that people will definitely buy into, and then it'll be fresh every few years, because in the college ranks you rotate out. A player's only there 4 years,
right,
or unless it's 100% Hunter Renfrow at Clemson, who was there for like 40 years.
Yeah.
It seemed like.
Yeah,
But-
so long. Yeah.
Also, a lot of coaches might have like off the field stuff, or like nobody's going to really say anything, at least in Atlanta, about Dan Quinn as a person, aside from, he's a great person. He's what you would want leading your team at a college level. Like, he's not going to get off the field trouble or anything like
Right,
that. Like,
right.
he's a great guy. He just wasn't good in Atlanta.
Yeah, he was the complete opposite of Bobby Petrino.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As
at
a
least
man.
Quinn won some games too. Like, Bobby Petrino
Yeah,
was
as a
just
man.
awful. Yeah, but
Yeah, I mean, Quinn also would never
No,
dip out
yeah.
on his team like a coward.
That's true. It's very true. Very important to note that. That's a big difference.
I'm sure he'd stay off the motorcycles too.
Stay off the bus. My goodness. Yeah. Yeah, I know we had a question from someone. Truebrook Investments asked, who do we think had the best game for the Falcons today? So for me, I'm going to go with the obvious one with Julio, because that was just a very impressive game. He only had 7 catches, but
too easy.
yeah, that was too easy. I'm going to take the easy one. I'm going to make you guys.
Low-hanging fruit.
I'm going to make you guys do the hard ones.
Low hanging fruit right there.
Yeah, it was 7 for 137, 19.6 yards per catch. I mean, it would have been nice, I guess, to have a touchdown if you're like a fantasy player. But yeah, that was a great game for him. One of his best games of the season. So that's my choice. But
I'm gonna go before Adnan just because.
to steal his guy. I got you. Yeah.
Were you gonna pick Foy?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well,
go
I
ahead.
just want to say, it seems like anytime we really need somebody to step up on this defense, he's doing it. This year, and yeah, it seemed like that was the case tonight too. So.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
Sterling Hoffrichter had that fantastic punt, which pinned them down inside the 5.
Yeah, it was a great punt. I mean, don't get me wrong. But
Hey,
yeah.
Sterling Hoffrichter, hi. He's been fantastic this year. The Syracuse alum.
Yeah.
You guys took the 2 obvious ones, Julio Jones and Foy Oluokun. I think Deion Jones had a pretty good game.
Yeah.
He had that big sack. He had 2 tackles for loss. Grady Jarrett was also fantastic, even though the stats won't really. He didn't have a super impressive game on the stat sheet, but he was just through all those holes and stuff. You know what? I'm gonna go with Young Wei Koo. 4 for 4 on field goals in the rain. He helped me in my fantasy game. So just complete bias. I'm going with Young Wei Koo.
All right. Yeah, that's a solid one. I mean, it was almost contentious, right? Because if that missed extra point had mattered, then we probably would have been really mad. But honestly,
we'd be roasting him
we'd
right
be
now.
roasting him. But
Well-
that's the difference between a win and a loss, right?
Hey, I'm telling you, those field goals weren't very long, but they were in the rain.
Yeah, they were. The rain stuff happens in the rain, man. It does.
It's been rough conditions.
Yeah.
These past few days in this part of the country.
Yeah, it has. I heard it from you. I got family in Atlanta too that were missing power for most of the day
I was
as
without
well,
power for the entire morning and afternoon today.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, I was almost spared having to watch the Falcons game.
Right, yeah. Myth Randier with the $20, brother. Thank you so much. That is awesome. That is our highest single donation, I believe, Myth Randier. So not taking the crown totally from George, because I think George has accumulated more. He's like the field goal approach, whereas Myth Randier is like the scoring in the red zone. But he says, keep up the good work, guys. Myth Randier, longtime listener. I know that you appreciate that I pronounce your name correctly too. So
is that Lord of the Rings?
It's Lord of the Rings. Yeah, it's Gandalf.
Okay.
Yeah, another word for Gandalf. Yeah. So yeah, we really appreciate you, brother. Thank you. I know we had 2 subs as well. My event box is not working, so I'm missing the names on those. It was Jitsu, I believe, was the first part of that sub. So I apologize. I had to fix that. This is still the trial period for these upgrades. I think they're fun, but we really appreciate all you guys for helping us test them out too. So.
Also for staying up late.
Yeah, the staying up late
right
man.
now at
12:30. Dylan Wodzinski is the latest sub as well.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, I'm just losing it all in this swarm of trying to follow chat and also, read everything off. So I appreciate you guys for that.
It's a multitasking business out here.
It is.
20, 30 years ago, 20, 30 years ago, all you have to do is write up a column, and that's it. You just specialize. Now they got us out here.
They got us out here 12:30 at night.
While they're all comfortable laying in bed.
Multimedia explosion.
They're all sleeping right now. But Dave Choate has contracts written in blood from each of us.
He does, yeah. He's like, you know what, Kevin? I need you to direct and produce and host, and also, and star. Thank you, yeah. No, it's fun. It's fun. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, we're kidding.
We're kidding,
really
totally. Yeah.
But we wouldn't be doing this.
Maybe if we play it up more, we'll bring in more revenue. But we'll save that for if things really go off the rails. But
they're out here. They got us begging for money after
they got us. Dave Choate's out here. Got us. Panhandling on the internet.
He's probably got the generic great fellas ready to go.
Yep.
It was all after Kevin beat him in trivia. That was the end.
Yeah, that was as soon as that happened. We knew that we would have to look for alternative sources of funding to keep this thing afloat. And you guys have not disappointed. I'll say that for sure.
It's okay. I'm not worried because Dave doesn't watch the show anyway.
Yeah, Dave will never know about this as long as you guys don't tell him. But now that I said that, but yeah, guys, we really do appreciate all of you. We have time for a few more takes. Before we get to that, though, just want to remind folks to like the video if you haven't already. We really appreciate that. It helps other folks on YouTube find it, and the subscriptions as well if you're interested in getting notifications. So let's talk. I know we have a bunch of questions. I know people want to know draft takes. Kenny G asking about those draft takes. So we got to give the people at least one draft take to keep them sated until next Wednesday.
Only October, man.
I know. I feel like I got to give them one take, because we got to go a whole week now to the next show. Because normally it would be a few days in between, but now it's all the way until next Wednesday. So we got to somehow have to come up with a draft take here. So I know Kenny G said Falcons are drafting at 15. I don't think that's where they're drafting. So I'm not going to project for the 15th spot.
Here's a take that's not a specific player, but it seemed like going into this past draft, I was confident that they would take a pass rusher, and I believe they didn't take one at all, right? They didn't take any edge rushers in the past draft.
The Falcons?
Yeah.
I don't think they did, yeah.
Marlon Davidson was the closest to it.
Because he's technically kind of a hybrid. But
so
I really hope we get to see what Marlon Davidson's got over the second half. He's had some unfortunate moments this year.
But my random take is, right now everybody's confident that we're going to take a quarterback. What if they don't?
Yeah, it depends on how they finish, probably, right? Because if they're in the top 5, they'll probably find a way.
I feel like they're going to win themselves out of the top. They'll probably be about 10 to 12, just because that's what they're probably going to do. And then everyone's right now, talking about Trevor Lawrence. They're not going to get Trevor Lawrence. They're just not.
You're not beating the Jets to 0, okay? The Jets are probably going to go 0-16. So.
Maybe Trey. Because the problem right now is you focus on the draft, and it's fun to think about and stuff. But by the time the combine comes around,
it's going to be so much fatigue. It's going to be a draft fatigue.
Yeah, and someone right now who's projected to go in round 1 might end up going in round 3. That's just how the draft.
Yeah. Calvin Ridley had no business falling to 26, but it's just GMs talking themselves out of it by just thinking that they're the smartest person in the room.
Yeah. Exactly. For me, it's we'll see, what happens with where they fall. I'd be open to a lot of positions. I'd probably Isaiah Oliver's almost certainly not going to be dependent on to start by the new regime. So, with AJ Terrell at one side, and we'll see if Darqueze Dennard makes a return or not. Probably gonna have to pay him a little bit more depending on how he plays. Anthony Smith, thanks for the sub, man. We appreciate you. But yeah, Micah Parsons is one. If they are still picking in the top 10, that's one to look at.
It looks like I think I haven't really dived into the prospects or anything, and the Big Ten literally just started playing football, so I think. I don't want to dive into the prospects right now because so much is going to change. But this team is going to be in desperate need of a safety. If we're just talking pure positionally, Like, what safeties? Jalen Hawkins is the only safety under contract after this season.
And they're still going to need an edge rusher.
Yeah.
Like, we still didn't.
Gregory Rousseau is a potential name. He's like one of those crazy athletes, but like I think he opted out of the season, so it's like, are we going to see, are you willing to take his last year's tape and kind of project, or how risky are you willing to be there? I know folks like Kwity Paye out of Michigan, I think is his name. I haven't really watched these guys at this point, but I'm just kind of going off hype. There's a number of edge rushers that could be in play. There's a number of guys that could also be like second round guys if they're picking high. Safety, I think, is another one to consider. That's probably not going to be like a top 10 option, but if they're picking, in the middle of the first round, I guess maybe that's probably still more of like a second round option. So we'll see. Maybe Jalen Hawkins, when he comes back, gets more snaps and looks fine.
And who knows? Maybe they just throw caution to the wind and trade up for Jamar Chase.
Oh man, there you go.
And then when AJ Terrell sees him in practice, it'll be like Family Guy, where like Peter sees the chicken, and their eyes just like
they just lock. Yeah,
and they just start fighting.
Yeah, just every time it's like, oh yeah, another fight broke out at practice today between Jamar Chase and AJ Terrell, and there was no precipitating event. The two just saw each other in the parking lot. Yeah. Man, yeah, I know some folks like Trey Lance too. Like honestly, that's probably the quarterback they have the best chance of taking.
Of the three, he's the one that's more likely to slide, right? Because he only play. They're only playing one game this year.
Yeah, he played a season last year and was really good. Then he's only playing the one game this year.
But like Lawrence is pretty much pick one or two, unless he just doesn't. Because he can still return to school.
Unless he says he doesn't want to, unless he says he's not going to play for the Jets, like, period. Which, please, for all of us, I would not be upset if he actually does that. It's been a while since someone's actually done that, but it's possible. It can happen.
Was the last one Eli?
I think so. Yeah.
Eli, yeah, and before, I think it's only been Eli.
I know Elway did.
Yeah, Eli and Elway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Bryce Leslie says, no, don't start the Jamar Chase stuff because people are still mad about CeeDee Lamb. Yeah. Miss me with the CeeDee Lamb stuff, all right? Like, we only can put 3 receivers on the field, for God's sake. Like, come on. How's CeeDee Lamb working out for the Cowboys, by the way? Like, oh, yeah, he's been great, and guess what? They're terrible. They were terrible before Dak went down, so don't use that excuse either. Courtney Odom, another sub. Thank you, Courtney. We appreciate you. Yeah, man, it's been 53 minutes. That's crazy. Time flies at night after these games, man. All right, well, let me go to the co-host this evening, see if you guys got any more takes. Evan, I'll go to you first. He's at Evan Birchfield on Twitter. Evan, anything you want to plug? Anything else you want to close off with tonight?
To be honest, no.
No. Yeah, that's refreshing, actually. Sometimes it's just like, you know what? I like my takes.
Actually, you know what? Make sure, as Kevin keeps repeating, make sure to like and subscribe. And also follow the Falcoholic on Instagram. It's with that _ the Falcoholic, because somebody is the Falcoholic. They beat us to the punch. Also follow Twitter. What is it? Falcoholic Live?
Yeah, it's just at Falcoholic Live. Yep.
Yeah. And follow that account because, Dave runs the Falcoholic on Twitter and, he retweets and stuff. But, for those who don't know, the Falcoholic Live has its own Twitter handle.
Yes, we're approaching 1,000 followers. So if you guys want to help us get over that hump, I think we're like 40 away or something.
And when you see it, retweet it because that's just as good, too.
Yeah.
There's some people on Twitter who are unaware that there's a show and stuff. So.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys really want to help out the show, you can take the link of the show that's up in your YouTube. You can just copy that and put that straight into Twitter or Facebook or whatever you use. And when you tweet it out, it'll show the video for people. Like, it'll show up on their feed. It doesn't just look like a link. Like, it'll actually show up like an embedded video. So if you guys want to help other people, other Falcons fans that may not know about the show, feel free to copy paste the link. Feel free to tell people, about the Twitter at Falcoholic Live, and you can always just do your usual likes and retweets. That's all perfectly good as well. Foyer Pro Bowl. Well, Kieran, I think if the Falcons were good, we might be talking about it, but.
Yeah, I think he'll make it next year. He probably should this year, but the team's record is going to hinder that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's just really hard for players on bad teams that don't already have a lot of name recognition. Like Grady Jarrett will probably make it now because he seems to be a guy that pretty much everyone knows. So he's like one of those guys that can really still get it even if the team's bad. But for some of these less well-known guys, yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard. Don Emery, thank you, brother. Have a good weekend. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to everyone else as well. Also with us tonight, Adnan Ikic at Say Which Way on Twitter. Adnan, anything you want to close with this evening?
I have my Fantasy Sudden article that's going to be going in the next couple days. Man, the short week really pushes those deadlines up.
Yeah, it does. It really condenses our like game week coverage. It was like, okay, I got my like post game done. All right, now I have to write 2 preview articles today. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's crazy, but
yeah, it's man, they really got us pressed out here. In addition to all the multimedia stuff we talked about.
Yes, exactly.
And I'll have an NFC South recap article coming up this Sunday as well. So check those out. And it's Falcoholic After Dark, so I will be sharing some Dave Choate special website. I'm kidding.
Hashtag Dave Me? No, hashtag Dave Me is like an exclusive patron, benefit. Only the high tier patrons get access to the hashtag Dave Me. So
we don't even get access.
We don't even get access to that. Yeah, like we would have to subscribe as well. Yeah, you have to take that up with Dave, folks. But yeah.
Oh, can I plug real quick?
Yeah.
I have a Halloween article coming out. I did one last year about what costumes Falcons players should wear. So also there's plenty of time if anybody listening who doesn't have a Twitter, you can suggest what costume you'd like a specific, and I do like a shitty Photoshop and put in an article, but I give you credit and stuff like that. So
yeah, I've seen some of the pictures. They're pretty good. They're pretty good so far. So definitely check that out.
So there's time still if anybody wants to, but that'll drop on Halloween.
Yeah.
And happy Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween as well, guys, tomorrow. Yeah. R-Will8, thank you as well for the sub, brother. We appreciate that. We just appreciate all the love, guys. Like I said, Don, Bryce Leslie, Tyler Russell. I mean, there's so many names now. Like, there's honestly, like, the community's really grown this year. We really appreciate that. Kenny G, great name, by the way. Ray Moon, all you guys, like we do really appreciate that. We appreciate all the new folks that have joined this year, all the diehards that have been with us since like the Facebook Live days. Those were dark days indeed.
Facebook Live days.
Yeah, those like days of 20 concurrent viewers on a Wednesday, and we were happy. Yeah, it's great. I mean, now guys on
humble
YouTube,
beginnings, humble beginnings,
and now we easily get over 100 on Wednesdays. So I mean, that's just it's nice to see, and we appreciate you guys for sticking with us through the early days, and now that we're a Falcons media empire, or so we think. So now we just have to make sure we don't become the evil Falcons empire. We got to stay the good guys. The scrappy underdogs of the Falcons media landscape. That is, I think, kind of our brand. So
the rebels.
The rebels. Yeah. Everybody loves the underdog. Yeah.
And if we do become the bad guy, we'll embrace it.
Exactly. Yeah. If the Falcons, the Falcons were to turn into the Patriots and just become these great winners, maybe we would embrace the dark side. We're open to that, but we'll save that for if that occurs. We'll keep the door open, but that's all. That's all I'll say on that note. But all right. Well, I'm just rambling at this point. So I'm Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin on Twitter. Like I said, don't have too much else to say tonight. It's late. I am, decently lit from the first half. Didn't have to get very lit after the second half because it was actually pretty solid football. But we do appreciate you guys for tuning in. And we will see you guys on Wednesday. So that's, I guess, not quite a week, but, it's a little longer than usual. So we'll miss you. But we've got a lot of stuff potentially coming down the pipe. So like the Patreon stuff, I'm hoping to roll that out in November. So like I said, if you guys have ideas for the type of stuff you might like as patron benefits, like, we're thinking about doing like an exclusive monthly Q&A for patrons that we would then publish, so everyone could see the questions and stuff like that. But, potentially doing a Falcoholic Discord for people to chat in, that sort of thing. So, if you guys have ideas, like I said, send them to me. Falcoholic Live on Twitter or falcoholiclive@gmail.com is the email if you guys have questions or comments. But in the meantime, like I said, like, subscribe, tell your friends about us, bring your fellow Falcons fans. We would even accept Saints fans. If they're polite, they can come hang out. That's fine. don't, they probably shouldn't tell anyone they're Saints fans, like, unless, because this is a Falcons show, so I don't know what they would expect if they said that, but they're welcome to come. We take all kinds. But otherwise, guys, we will see you next Wednesday, 8:10 p.m. Eastern. Until then, enjoy your stress-free football Sunday. Please vote. Whoever you support, whatever you want to do. There's still time to early vote in most states, but I will say, please don't try to mail your ballot in. The USPS is like totally jacked up, so if you try to mail your ballot at this point, it might not make it. So make an effort to maybe go drop that off in person or just
tomorrow is the last day of early voting in Georgia, and Tuesday is election day. And stay safe out there with all the winds and the tropical storm going through and all the fallen trees around. So, stay safe to everyone in Georgia and in the surrounding states.
Absolutely. Yeah, guys, be safe out there. Hope everyone in the Georgia area is doing all right. Like I said, we'll see you on Wednesday of next week, 8:10 p.m. Eastern. Until then, guys, have a great night.